down here in Tompkins Square Park, trying to exercise a little Hochmah consciousness. Remember, Hochmah comes from the right side of the brain. Bina consciousness comes from the left side of the brain. And consciousness of Keta is like will. It's higher above. It's an Ein consciousness that comes from above. It's an Aleph. And that's the way the three letters are in the head, and they're kind of like three worlds that they were talked about yesterday, about the hot zone, the warm zone, and the cool zone in an attack. And these are three circles there, but how do they express themselves in the body? I was reading Sefer Yetzirah, the commentary by Aryeh Kaplan, who I actually studied with, and his comment was that many mystics used to use the mem, the horizontal mem of the three mother letters that goes from Netzach to Hod, and it's the stomach area, and that's water, which is not much different than Bruce Lee saying, be like water. And water is Hochmah consciousness, which is involved in the 40 sayers of the mikvah, and the number 40 itself is Hochmah consciousness. And so what we want to do is, and you know, recently in the past 10 years or so, they talk about the gut brain. You know, the brain in the gut. There's another brain down there, and that's the Hochmah consciousness. And Kaplan said that many mystics used to meditate in the stomach area, because that's the unconscious area, and that's like how we digest food. We don't consciously say digest. We digest food in the Hochmah consciousness below the belly, in the belly, and that's actually below the girdle. And I've always thought that that's the animal soul, and maybe the animal soul which is unconscious within us, and we're supposed to turn this unconsciousness and godliness in the animal soul as, I don't know, Hu Ha-Elohim. Let's see. I'm down here playing tennis. I don't know if you can see the wall, but behind me some basketball. And so, what am I suggesting here? I'm suggesting to breathe into the belly, breathe into the gut. Bring the Aleph, which is, and again, there's three spots. There's a way that these letters are in the head, and Keta for the Aleph, Hochmah for the Mem, and Bina for the Shin. But in the body, they're the three, what they call the mother letters of the parallels. Between Hochmah and Bina is the Shin. Between Hesed and Gevurah is the Aleph, the air. And below that is the between Netzach and Hod is the Mem. And when I'm out here playing tennis, I'm actually using my hands, which are the cherubim, and the cherubim actually could be considered on the two sides of the Aleph, because the two sides, the Netzach and the Hesed and Gevurah are the two hands, and then between them is the Aleph, which is always Hashem. And this air that's going into the belly, let me get into the Mem a little bit. This Mem in the unconscious, in the gut brain. And to live in that gut brain. So get past Bina and Bina consciousness, which is thought. And yesterday I was talking about Bria world, but Etziliut world is the Mem. Etziliut world. And that comes from Etzil with those elbows. And when the elbows are like that, the hands, and there's a whole other thing that I'm going to talk about. How God speaks between the hands, and also between the feet, and between the hands is the tongue, and between the feet is the bris. And there's actually some things that the Aleph could be, and the chest, the Gimel, Vav, Yud, Hey, which is considered the body, but it's really the chest. And that could be the tip of the bris. And These are very deep mystical things here. So to start to breathe into the Hochmah consciousness of the belly, you see, and this has been open to me now that I'm using my nose for breath, because then I can bring the air down to the belly. If I use my mouth, it's going to stay up in the lungs. But if I use my nose for breath and keep my mouth shut, you see, the mouth is again deep for food, because if the belly is so important and the unconscious thing there, then all of a sudden kashrut is a very big deal. Because kashrut is what's feeding this belly for this unconscious aspect. And so Hochmah consciousness is in the M, the Mem, 40. You know, put the consciousness into the belly, into the second brain down there, into the gut, stomach brain.